our country has a whole history of folks that I don't know them necessarily, but I don't know if every cleaner owner was passionate about dry cleaning,
Exactly.
or every grocery store owner was passionate about produce, but they might have been passionate about other things within the business. If I get passionate when I know that a young man or young lady can take care of their family, right, by all of our collective hard work and our relationships and just doing a good job, that excites me. Do I get super excited about the finish of a drywall? Maybe not, right?
Right.
But I do get excited about that piece. I do get excited about getting new clients and making new relationships.
So, building with us today is a gentleman I met years ago through a mutual friend. And every time that name was brought up, it was one of three things. He was either it was either good news, he was sharing some kind of resource, he was coming through to help out with something or helping somebody get a job, or he was always on the go. He was always making a move, and I just knew he was getting to it. And it took me years to really understand what getting to it meant for this gentleman. Then I realized that he works in real estate and development and other different projects. He graduated from Howard University. He has a Master's of Science in Real Estate. I didn't even know that was a thing. And he's former top 40, under 40 from Baltimore Business Journal, which is kind of a big deal. This is the owner and founder of THG Companies, a full service construction firm located here in Baltimore. Mr. Cheo Hurley, thanks for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Quintel. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I was excited when I found you on LinkedIn because it's just you don't always see people using the platform that much, and then you always forget. Like you know people outside, but then you don't know them like always in a professional setting. So I saw
Yeah,
somebody that was familiar, and I was like, oh yeah, I got to connect with my man. And then I started to think about this project, and I was going through your profile. I always knew you were like working in the development space and real estate. And I went through your profile and I was like, this would be a perfect person to come on and talk about it because we hear a lot about different developments going on in Baltimore and it looked like you had some insight. So I'm glad you
yeah,
were able to come on and you might be able to share some stuff with us here.
yeah, for sure, no problem.
All right, so for the audience, tell them who you are, what you do, kind of how you got here real quick so they'll know they working with.
Yeah, yeah. So once again, I'm Cheo Hurley. I own THG Companies. We're a construction company. Actually, we started as a real estate investment, development, and advisory company back in 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Around 2008, during the market crash, I had already had some expertise with project management on the construction owner rep side. When I started my company originally, I started off flipping houses, right? So I flipped houses in my own neighborhood. But I also worked in the industry, so I was a project manager on the big biotech park over in East Baltimore. I
Mm-hmm.
worked for the Forest City East Baltimore Partnership, and I really cut my teeth on real estate development and construction management on that project. Prior to that, when I came out of college, I was a finance major, so I always
Okay.
try to figure out ways to blend finance and policy, right? And so when I was in college, I worked on Capitol Hill for Kwesi and Fume. I ran for office on the yard at Howard. I got my master's in public administration, and I even worked in federal government with the Department of Treasury and with HUD.
Okay.
And all these things kind of parlayed into the next thing, right? And so I was able to kind of like refocus my career around 2000 to more real estate. And once I decided I wanted to be in the real estate sector, I did all sort of crazy things, man. I just started ordering books from like online books from Amazon. Just started reading about all sorts of different things I could learn outside of my normal job or
Mm-hmm.
outside of what you just read in the newspaper. I needed a kind of step by step guide how to really kind of get in the industry and to beef up my resume to do that. When I left HUD, I went to work for Deloitte Tax to be specific, and I was doing real estate valuation on the tax side, and that really helped me parlay into working at Forest City, New East Baltimore Partnership. And so it's really kind of been a windy road.
Mm-hmm.
In 2008, as you know, the real estate market crashed dramatically.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there like I already had one master's degree, and I was in the master's program at Hopkins, as you mentioned, for the real estate program there, which is a wonderful program. And I got two little kids, and I'm kind of like, what am I going to do? Right? I'm about to lose my job. Um, and I had this thing, right? I had this thing where um, when I wasn't working, I was able to take my company and do consulting services over in DC
Okay.
with another firm that I do work with sometimes now. And so I was, I started doing that, and then that parlayed me into coming back to Baltimore to working at Park Heights Renaissance, first as a VP over there, and then as the executive director of Park Heights Renaissance. And we were planning the entire, working on the master plan for the entire Park Heights community, which is a vast community,
Mm-hmm.
1,500 acres, 30,000 residents. And I really got to cut my teeth even more on development and urban management, urban development, et cetera. So, it's been a windy road, which has included all the things that I kind of set my mind to, right? Being in business, being in politics to some degree, right? Helping people, providing jobs. I've been able to do all those things through my career. Um, and when I left, I owned the company the whole time, but I had partners, et cetera. And in 2018, I bought my partners out and started running the company full time. We were already doing subcontract work for some of the bigger general contractors in the area. Then I was able to just take it over and go from there. And since 2018, we've probably done, I don't know, we've done about $70 million worth of work in the all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
We've employed over that time over 100 employees, the most at any time, somewhere around 30 employees, right? And so, we hire locally, we train locally. Part of our mission is to give opportunities to those who might not have ordinarily had an opportunity when we can. So,
Nice.
it's truly a Baltimore story, right? I give back to my community, and I do my best to try to represent Baltimore as well as I can.
Well, brother, I say you're doing a good job, man. So I want to touch on a few quick things. You talked about a buyout. So a lot of people in business, they have partners or they don't really know how to manage partnerships, and or you might start a business with just your friend you grew up together or somebody you went to college with. You're both kind of on the same education level, and you want to just dive off into doing something. But at some point, ideas change, the vision for future change, life circumstances have happened. So, can you tell us a bit about the buyout process? Was it kind of easy? Were they already doing something different, or did they feel
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
better suited? How did that go? Hey, quick break in the video to bring you two things. First, if you didn't know, 78% of customers shopping for services online go with the business that responds first. Not the best and not the cheapest, but first, because that speed gives them confidence that you can get the job done. So if you're a service-based business owner and you know you're losing leads because you're either too busy with fulfillment or you drown it in all the other admin work, click the first link in the description and I can help you set up a system that responds in 2 minutes and not 2 hours. This way you won't lose deals or clients to businesses that are responding first. You can start to make more money every month and continue to grow your business. Second, if you're a business in Baltimore and you want to share your expertise, share your origin story, talk about how you got to where you are in your business, and you want to learn how to use AI to grow your business into the future, click the second link in the description and apply to be a guest on the Build Different podcast.
It was easy. I mean, it was more like some folks that were more mentors for me,
Okay.
who had their own busy lives, and I was getting advisement from them, etc. But we weren't doing a ton of business, right? And so it was kind of like it was easy. It was easier to do it to kind of to move forward with doing it. The hardest part was making sure from a legal and technical standpoint that you execute the documents and paperwork properly,
Mm,
so that you have a full tracking of it, because down the road you'll need that, right? When you apply for loans, or when you are going for certain certifications, they want to know the ownership structure. They want to know, did you ever have partners? Do you still have partners? Things of that nature. And you should be able to provide all that documentation
gotcha.
as readily as possible.
Nice. All right, so let's talk about business now. So you started 2018, you took over, you started getting a lot of contracts and running it up, getting to the amount the where you are now, 70 million or more. And so what are the things that you found that are working in business now? And then what are some of the things that kind of chaotic for how things are going now? We got a new administration for about a year now. So How is that impacting your business?
Well, business moves at the speed of relationships.
Hmm.
And so, fortunately for us, we were able to form strong relationships with lots of clients over time. We had diversified our client pool. And so, it was on me and on my employees to really work to make sure we did a good job. In construction, it can be very much up and down. Like you can do really, really well one day, and then the next day it could be really, really tough, right? And so your guys aren't doing that great or whatever. And so for me, it's just imperative to always come back and say, hey, if we did a great job, definitely seek the kudos, not for me, but really for my employees, so that they know that they did a good job, and it can help, buoy their emotions to be able to go to the next thing,
Hmm.
but to also get a lessons learned, right, of how we can do better, who's a good fit, who's not for certain types of jobs, etc. And so that's helped us. The current environment is a tricky one with respect to uh, being a minority-owned firm and what that means for the future of contracting. But at the end of the day, you still have to do a really, really good job,
Right.
right, with whatever you do, and you have to be somebody that companies want to work with. And so it's interesting. I tell people all the time, I even tell my kids this. I said it's very important to be competent, very important to be competent, but it's almost, if not more important to be liked,
Hmm.
right? So people do business with folks that they like, right? They can do the work and they like you. If you can get those two things together,
Yep.
you probably will be pretty good and successful at business.
Yeah, that's the relationship part, right? Make yourself a pleasure to work with, right? You might
Oh,
be disagreeable here and there, but you can get the work done, and people like you because of whatever the reason. But that's a big thing. I think
yeah.
people being liked. We
Yeah.
kind of just we kind of just go through life like, a lot of people say, "I am how I am," take me how I am, kind of thing. And well, you kind of limit yourself if how you are now is not getting the results you want. You should probably make some adjustments so you can be more likable and advance
I
your
mean,
life, not just professionally, right? You want to be able to advance all the
yeah, yeah,
relationships that you have.
yeah. Throughout life, growing up in Baltimore, right? I grew up in the late '80s, '90s, and anybody who's watched any sort of TV or whatever kind of knows what that was like here. If you grew
Hmm.
up here, you know what it was like, and you grow up with really this armor that you need to go through life daily, right? Which helps you persevere through tough times, but it also can be a detriment to you when you're sitting in a boardroom, right? And
Hmm.
so I'm always kind of advising guys like, hey man, listen, you can be the toughest guy in the room, you can curse people out, you can go hard, right? But know that it might not be beneficial to you down the road, right? That person, nobody wants to do business with somebody they're scared of
Right.
or that they think is going to embarrass them, right? Or embarrass their firm or whatever, right? Why do I want to write you a check to do a service when I don't like you? Right? It just goes back to, or I'm scared of you. Yeah, you gotta find a way to kind of like let that go. And it's a work in progress, but all of us have emotions and get upset. And how do
Hmm.
you how do you do it? I think people need to change the narrative, especially nowadays. I mean, back in the '80s and '90s, there used to be a culture of, shoot, even 2000s, work 80 hours a week. The guy who's a leader is banging the table and cursing people out, and that's how you get things done. But the reality is that doesn't work for long, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just last week I was thinking to myself, never go full Dame Dash. Right. You never want to go full Dame Dash. He did a lot and just because like last month or so, I don't know if you follow this, but he was in the news a lot for um, working with Revolt, saying that he was the CEO, beefing back and forth with Cameron, just being in debt if he was or if he wasn't. We'll never really know. But we all know what his reputation is, and he was not easy to interface with. Like he pushed the culture forward a lot, but like you said, it doesn't work in the long run. It worked in the late '90s and 2000s. He had a major agenda and it really did help hip hop. But you look
Yeah.
25 years later, and he can't get any good partnerships. So,
Well, I'm a child of hip hop, right? And so I still follow all this stuff, and
hmm,
um, hip hop was the kind of soundtrack to me and all my buddies' lives growing up, right? And
yeah,
so, the hustle mentality that we took from hip hop, we try to incorporate it in our lives. But some of the stuff, like that sort of stuff is not, that was his style,
Hmm.
and I'm sure it worked for him for a certain amount of time. But like I said, all these things sometimes catch up with you, right? And people just like to do business with people that they like. They just do. People like to be partnered with people that they like, and that they are comfortable with and that they trust,
Yeah.
right? And who have integrity and honor, right? And those things are still important, man. Some of these underlying things that we learn about life, they're super important. Some simple, really, really, really simple stuff. So, yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate. I've been following that. It's it's interesting to watch.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I still root for him though. I think he is a smart guy. So, um,
Yeah, yeah, he is.
so right now, I know. Are you still working on the Elijah Cummings rec center?
Yes, yeah, I'm partnered with Banneker Ventures on that project, and um, I kind of alluded to that before. Banneker Ventures is a minority-owned firm based in Silver Spring,
Okay.
and the owner of that firm I've known since college, and they do a lot of great work down in the DC area, and we're working together on that recreation center here in Baltimore, trying to bring some amenities to the Curtis Bay community. So it's a great project. Uh, all kudos to Mayor Brandon Scott and the Rec and Parks team for Baltimore City. They've
Hmm.
been very, very proactive, super helpful. The whole administration has been, making a push to build rec centers throughout the city. And it's been a pleasure to work with the city. It's been an awesome experience for us.
Yeah, I know it's. Don't quote me on this, but I know it's at least 40 rec centers or something he's done or helped
Yep.
rebuild some of them in
Yeah,
Baltimore.
it's a
But
lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Yep.
yeah, I know it's been a big initiative behind that. So you're working on the on that project. You talked about the relationships, so you have a good understanding of what it's like to run a business. So what I think is important in business is understanding. I think that to be a good business owner and to lead a business in any degree, you have to have good taste, and the taste applies to your business, right? I don't mean just taste in like style or restaurants and music, but you have to know what good looks like. And you said that the Elijah Cummings project is a good project. So what is working right now? Like what does good look like for a development project? Like how do you know that you're on track? You are hitting some milestones or benchmarks for the project. Like what does that look like in your space?
Well, from a construction standpoint, you're always given a schedule when you first start.
Okay.
You're actually contractually obligated to a schedule, and so that's what looks good, right? Making sure you're looking at your schedule daily, weekly, monthly, and your whole team knows that hey, we're on our mark or we're not,
Hmm.
and so that's really important. I think that what you mentioned about taste and style and what looks good is important, right? So it's one thing for a specific project, but it's also important for how your business looks outwardly facing to the world.
Hmm.
So your logo, your website, how your employees show up on jobs, your trucks when they're driving around, your LinkedIn page, right? All these things I think really matter to small business because to be honest with you, most small businesses are trying to look big,
Yeah.
right? Or bigger than what they are a lot of times. A lot of times small businesses are punching above their weight class, right? And so in order to do that, how do you make your company um, look like that, feel like that, and execute like that? And that's what you got to be constantly working on um, daily. It's a daily grind because especially now because technology and things are moving so quickly, you always got to be reading and up on this stuff.
Yeah. And I'm glad you just took the conversation right to where I was going because you mentioned small businesses being able to punch up. And that's what I talk to like some of my clients about. That's the power of using AI. It allows you to get leverage so that you can get a lot more done, even if you are a small team. So how are you using it in your business? I mean, you may be working with bigger teams, like you said, you've hired up to 30 people at a time for a job, but that's just not construction workers. You have other people who are knocking out other types of tasks on the admin side or even on the legal side. Who knows? So how are you using it?
Yeah, so AI is super important right now. I would tell everybody that I know lean into that. Lean into AI, lean into understanding what it is, lean into learning what large language models are or LLMs as they're
Hmm.
called. Um, Try out the different platforms. Try out Claude, try out Chat, try out Perplexity, try them
Mhm.
all out, right? Maybe you don't subscribe to them and pay for them, but you have to try these things out. What I'm finding is that these things are a superpower. You know what I'm saying? Like using this technology, it's a superpower. It shouldn't be something that folks should be afraid of, in my opinion.
Mhm.
AI actually has been around for over 70 years. People don't realize that,
Right.
right? The common folk don't realize that because they haven't, done the research, but it has been. We've been living with it for all this time.
Mhm.
And so to worry that, it's going to totally take away jobs, whatever, it will change the way work looks for individuals. It will change the way people have to show up to work in a lot of respects. But if you are an intelligent person, an educated person, a person that reads a lot, a person that can articulate their thoughts in a meaningful way, artificial intelligence is a superpower. It makes you a super employee. It makes you a super person.
Mhm.
It makes you 10 times, 20 times more productive. Absolutely. And that is what folks going into business or into the workforce generally should be looking to do. How can I do more utilizing technology? Just
Mhm.
like the way we use the Microsoft platforms, right? Like, hey, I was in college, I was using a typewriter to do my work, right? With a little digital keypad. And then sometimes I finally got a computer and I had a dot matrix printer.
Yeah.
And God hopes that those things stay on the spools, right? Everything, everything advances in life. It just does. And so the question is, how are you going to move along with it? And so, in my industry, I can see a time when it significantly helps project managers, it helps superintendents, it helps senior project manager. It'll help the whole downstream, right? It'll help the whole team to move faster and to get jobs done quicker and more efficiently. And so that's what we should be looking at artificial intelligence to do.
Got you. Yeah, moving faster. And I think it is intuitive for entrepreneurs to think about it because we want to get more done and for less almost every time possible, right? We want to do spend less on it, which is that's available to us with AI. Like you said, you don't have to apply, you don't have to subscribe to some of these things. You can actually just go and use the free version of it and still get some kind of benefit. But for the workforce or for people who, yeah, for the workforce, something that you just mentioned that I just thought about, you said doing more or by being a super employee. And unfortunately, so many people approach things like they want to do the least amount of possible. They don't, they want to do less and get more. And
Yep.
that is probably a part of like the psychological, like the resistance to using AI. It's like, it's going to make me do, it's going to take my job. And I already don't want to do more in my job.
Right.
And just recently, I was talking to I just had a guest, the last guest, and he said like so many people don't want to work. He's like he finds good employees because of how he his guidelines on hiring, but he said so many people don't want to work. If
Yeah.
they knew it was as easy as articulating your thoughts, like you said, and giving it to AI, they could probably get by or make more happen, right, and accomplish more in their jobs.
Right.
But I'm glad you shared that. I'm glad you shared that. Everybody just know I'm an advocate, but I didn't ask Cheo to advocate for AI as hard as he did. But I agree with him on this. So
Gone so far. I'm even taking classes at Wharton Business School right now related to AI. I'm
nice.
I'm all, I'm all in, man. I'm all the way into it. I just think that as an owner, you got to continue to grow and learn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going away.
Right.
It's just not going away. And so, how can we utilize it to do more faster, better,
Yeah.
right? And be more profitable. I mean, listen, unless you're a nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
reason that you start a business is to make profit,
Yep. Yep.
right? You want to service your clients at a top level to earn a profit for your employees and yourself, CEOs. This is not charity.
Right. Right.
And if you approach it from day one like that, so when you ask me about partnerships and all these things, all of that's cool. Yes, I encourage. I have no partners. It can be a lonely trek sometimes, but pick your partners wisely, pick your employees wisely, because this stuff is about making money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
I
know,
would agree.
we
So
have to make money.
all right. So I want to ask you something about that because I'm trying to find a better way to articulate this without sounding like a jerk sometimes when I'm talking to certain people. You want to make profit in your business. Now you pivoted from what you were doing, like you did politics, real estate, development, and so along those lines, you're making money, but you never mentioned passion. And so that's a part of why I see some black businesses kind of not moving forward like they should because they either they are too not it's nothing wrong with being too passionate, but when it's all about your passion, you lose sight of the actual business. You lose sight of delivering value, right, to customers, if you got shareholders, to clients, and things like that. Do you have any ideas or anything to share around that to help people that may need to understand, like you may not be able, you may make more profit and your passion just might have to be a hobby, right? You might not be working in your passion.
So it's interesting. I just, I listened to this guy, Professor Galloway. I don't know if you've ever seen
Scott
him on.
Galloway?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I just saw a clip with him. He was saying, everyone wants to talk about their passion. He's like, but if you really break down some of the richest folks, the average rich business owner, well-off business owner in the country, they're tax accountants, they're people who own maybe car dealerships,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're lawyers, right, who own their own practice and a specialty practice. And on the face of it, you wouldn't say that they were passionate about that, probably, right? Like, um, our country has a whole history of folks that I don't know them necessarily, but I don't know if every cleaner owner was passionate about dry cleaning,
Exactly.
right? Or every grocery store owner was passionate about produce,
Yep.
right? But um, they might have been passionate about other things within the business. So for me, I'm really passionate about training and hiring people locally and representing our city as, you know, and I would like to represent Baltimore and small business on a global scale one day, right? Like, and that's what I'm passionate about, right? I get passionate when I know that a young man or young lady can take care of their family, right, by all of our collective hard work
Mm-hmm.
and our relationships and just doing a good job, right? That excites me, you know. Do I get super excited about the finish of a drywall? Maybe not, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
but I do get excited about that piece. I do get excited about getting new clients and making new relationships, right? I get excited about that type of stuff. And so it's, you got to find the thing within the thing that really gets you going outside of just money, right? I mean, money is super important,
Mm-hmm.
but it has to be more than that because you will, if you're successful, you will get to a point where you have enough money, right? Um, the question is what keeps you getting up every morning to do
Yeah.
something, right? And so you got to find that thing.
I appreciate that. That you got to find the thing inside the thing. Yeah,
Yeah, the
I
thing
can agree
inside
with
the
that, man.
thing.
Because when I had my juice bar, I just knew honestly it was natural for me because it was something that I was doing. But there was an opportunity to improve that in the city and make it more accessible. But I wasn't a fan of grinding carrots and like pressing pineapple. Like it's no fun. I'm not. It's not. It's peaceful because it's repetitive. So your brain turns off and you're just doing the thing. But the thing inside the thing for me was the presentation of it. So like me having like glass bottles and doing the marketing around it. And long as we were using like good produce and had clean practices, I did not have to do it. And people kind of expected me to do it because they saw me doing it, and the
Right.
interpretation was that I was passionate about like the juice, and I was like, nah, that's not it. But I wasn't dissatisfied because I found the thing inside the thing, and it was just
Right.
such a small thing. Just the presentation of it, made me happy. So uh, that's a big lesson. Thank you for sharing that. And you talked about helping other people like provide for their families and things like that. But I was on your LinkedIn and I noticed there was another Hurley that worked inside your business as an intern. So that's your son?
That's my son. Yeah, yeah. My son and my nephew work for me
Nice.
during the summertime. Yep. Yep.
Did you have to
And
do
I've
any?
had other interns. I've had other interns work for us too. Some Morgan.
Okay.
Morgan interns. Yep. You know, we try to hire interns as much as we can when we can.
Um,
We give them
how did he
kind
like it? Or is he interested in following your footsteps, or just maybe in business, maybe not in development?
of he has my son actually has an interest in sustainable design, and
Nice.
so he's in college now, and he's in his freshman year, and he hasn't decided a major yet, but he's trying to decide if he wants to do some sort of sustainable design related to construction or even not, right? Um, you know, I think his thing is really looking out for the world, the globe, right?
Yeah.
Our environment. Um, and you know, he's an interesting kid. He's real smart, right? And but he is not one to be uh I couldn't see him sitting at a cubicle all day for like 40, 50 hours a week, right? He needs to be out and moving around. So I think that, you know, we'll see what happens. Hopefully it sparks some. You know, one thing I do when it comes to our interns, I just try to like I put them in real world situations, right? Like, you know, do the thing. Go do this thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And get it done and get it done at a high level. And even for all my employees, I try not to be a micromanager. When I was just working a regular 9 to 5 and I wasn't an owner, I couldn't stand micromanagers, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
get why, right? Because ultimately that person wants a certain level of quality product produced, and you got to make sure it gets done,
Yeah.
and so um, that's it's part of the business. It's hard to explain. It's hard to I get that people don't want to be micromanaged, but when somebody has their entire life on the line for a company, it's important that you do the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. You learn best through the actual experience.
yeah, you got to get out there and do it and understand it. Like, and I'll tell people like, this is why I have you doing this. I need you to do this because this is how we get paid, right? Like, this is how we submit this to our clients. This is how, so I think it's important for owners if you're going to have an intern, really explain to them. My interns, you know what I had them do? I had them read, part of their daily assignment was like read multiple articles in newspapers that I would pick out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had them read multiple books this summer,
Nice.
right? And so one of them was Reginald Lewis's book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun?
Mm-hmm.
I had to read that, right? And wanted to get them down to the Reginald Lewis Center to
For
see
the
the
exhibit.
exhibit.
Yeah.
Hopefully, during this winter break, I can make that happen. I've been down there to check it out. And so it's like you're in a job, you're seeing a person that owns a business, you're reading about business people, you're reading current events about the thing, maybe it starts clicking because it's all like it's not really real to a kid in college, right? Like, and I was in college when I was in college, I had a bunch of internships each summer. It's not really real till you're really just doing it, and you're reading about it and you're learning it from a macro level. You got to have all the things. You got to understand how the economy is impacting the business you're working in, and so if you don't read, you're just going to be lost. Like, and it's super important that people read. It's just, I think it's becoming a lost art in a lot of respects, right?
Definitely. It is.
Just reading the newspaper every day, right? It's like kids would rather, or people, not just kids, people in general would rather watch the video than to read about the game last night,
Yep. Yep.
so
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm a big fan of Reginald F. Lewis and read his book and talk to anybody about it, whoever wants to talk about it, right? Because I'm a fan of him. I'm biased because he's from Baltimore. Uh,
yep,
if he didn't pass away at a young age, he'd probably be one of the richest black people in probably the world, right?
yeah.
The people who we have now, like Rob, uh, man,
Like Bob Johnson and all those guys.
Bob Johnson and
Oh,
Robert
and
Smith, right? Yeah,
Robert Smith. Yeah,
I
yep,
think he
yep.
would probably be a mentor to those guys because he's probably a bit older than them.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, yeah,
But the exhibit was great. I think the exhibit is great, and what you said about them is not real until they actually experience it. It's something that I've been thinking a lot about because even like with things that I notice in like great entrepreneurs and great sports people, it's really just pattern recognition. But if you don't spend enough time and have enough exposure to the things that happen, you won't see the patterns. And something I think I'm saying, I don't know because I haven't lived this life. People who have had past trauma, it's not just because they're resilient and made it through the trauma. When you have trauma, you have to see all of these different things happening. You're noticing patterns in behavior. My dad got drunk. When he's drunk, he's going to get violent, right? You process at a young age, you're processing these things. So you don't necessarily have to be around negative things, but you have to be around or read about to see what the patterns are. Even when you read the newspaper, you'll see a pattern of bold headlines, sub headline, right? We call it H1, H2, right? Because the same thing shows up on the blog. And then you have like
Yeah,
the body style, the font, where they place the photos. You'll start to see patterns. So
yeah,
I think it's great that you place your interns in that. So I'm
yeah,
glad you shared that. Um, that leads me to the next part of this conversation. So you have interns, you have employees, and you know how to get from zero to probably one and beyond when it comes to building a business and um, doing development. So let's say I was a young guy in Baltimore and I had aspirations of having a construction firm. I walk past this building every day. I see your sign and I see the Banneker sign posted next to it on the fence. You know, we see it all the time when somebody's doing development and construction. Could you give me like a one, two, three, four, maybe, or how many steps you may think it takes for them to get in the game? Do they start with an internship, or do you think they should pick up some tools and learn construction, or it may not be your path, but do you think that there's a decent step of process they could take?
yeah. So I mean, in construction, like you alluded to just now, it's a little bit different, right? Like, yeah, if a guy or young lady or whoever knows how to do a skill, right, has a trade that they're already doing, I tell them you could you're worth multi-million dollars. You're sitting on multi-million dollars right now. I tell them a plumber, an electrician, a welder, you're sitting on literally millions of dollars. You just have to realize how to extract that money from the trade that you know, your knowledge in your head. Um, I would tell folks, and I just had this conversation. It's interesting. Um, Young people, right? Like, uh, whether you're going the college route or you're going that route, right? You're going the trades route. Um, get good at that thing, right? So if you're in college, like get good grades
Mm-hmm.
and don't cheat to get the good grades, right? Like get the good grades because it goes back to what you just talked about, learning, pattern recognition, um, grit, you know, attention, showing up to class. I tell folks all the time, like, I got two kids in college. You can get a B just showing up to all your classes,
Mm-hmm.
usually. Right? Because you're going to show if you show up to like 99% of your classes, then you're probably going to get some information. You might end up seeing some stuff that you're really interested in, right? And you're going to turn the work in, right? So it's like show up and then do the assignments. So same thing if you're in the trades, if you're learning the trades and they have certain requirements, and throughout Baltimore there are several programs to help folks kind of enter the trades, right?
Okay.
They say be there at 6:30. Be there at 6:30. Matter of fact, be there at 6:15,
Yep.
not like 6:40, not 6:31, right? Get in there and learn the thing. That would be the first thing. Show up.
Show up.
Number two, and I'm not here to like monitor people's lives, but young people, like if you're going to be in the trades, understand that marijuana is a drug. And you cannot work on job sites if you get drug tested and you have marijuana in your system.
Yep.
It just is what it is. And certain companies, lots of companies still test for drugs. So if you're coming from a college internship, you're going to get drug tested, at least in construction. Or if you're going on a job site, you're going to get drug tested, right? And how embarrassing would that be that you can't earn a living because you can't um, stop smoking marijuana? I won't even get into anything else. I'll just leave it at marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
You know, understand how marijuana works in people's bodies and then make a decision from there, right? That's number two. Number three, um, if you want to start your own business, you have to know where you are personally from a financial standpoint. Do your own budget, pull your credit score, understand, do I have any student loans? How much are my student loans? What's the interest rate on my student loans? Do I have credit cards? Has anybody like taken out credit in my name? You know,
Mm-hmm.
all the things, right? And the reason why I say it because you got to be on top of that. Set a budget for yourself. You can't set a personal budget for yourself and execute a personal budget. That you're not going to be able to do it for your company,
That's
right?
a really good point. That's something that's very practical. I actually never heard about anybody say that as a method to like practice to get in entrepreneur shape, right? Have a
And look,
personal budget.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I don't ever like to get political, but the interesting fact of the matter is, most of our politicians, nationwide or whatever, never ran a business, but then they're handed billion-dollar budgets
Hmm.
that impact millions of lives, right? So, I'm expected to believe somebody who can't manage a budget can run whatever. It can be a little bit scary. So yeah, going back to that, and look, you can sometimes have the best practices ever. You can be really good at it, and sometimes things just don't work out. Sometimes things are just more expensive. You just don't have enough cash flow and get in trouble, right? So, but for young people, know your credit score, learn how to budget, learn how to put yourself on solid financial footing. Next, I would tell them to get a job. Get a job and create a side hustle while you have that job, right? Like I own my business for years, but I still had like, a full-time job, and I had partners that could help me with stuff. And I had mentor protege relationships that would help me through. So I wasn't always a super heavy lift all the way through. But I mean, I got 3 kids, man. I can't like to come in and just say, yo, I'm quitting everything. Good luck. No contract to hand, no nothing.
Hmm.
Right? You gotta have a pathway to take care of yourself.
Right. Yep.
You know, you have to have a pathway to take care of yourself. And so, sometimes it takes years and years and years of having a side hustle and saving money and not spending and sacrificing um, to be able to execute this thing, whatever that thing may be. And it's going to mean that you can't always go to sleep early. And it's going to mean that, sometimes when you want to go home and you're tired, you need to go to a networking event.
Hmm.
Because once again, you got to have the relationships, and it's gonna mean that you might take a $5,000 contract and put that up on your website and parlay that one to the $10,000 one, and then parlay that to the $50,000 one, and that's what it is. And then following up with folks, I would tell young people, and I tell any people, everybody, and I've noticed this a lot lately. I interview people for jobs
Hmm.
or internships or whatever, and maybe I'm just old school. People don't even write you thank you letters anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Like
real.
I've recently interviewed several people. Did no follow up at all. No thank you. No nothing. Like, and it's the little things. It's like, hey man, oh that was thoughtful. You know. Um,
What's funny is AI can actually do that for us if we was already taught how to be thoughtful, right? You can just automate a thank you email.
Easy. It's easy. Just
Yep.
just email. I'm not. Look, I came up in an era where I'm literally writing a thank you letter and putting it in the mail, or a
Hmm.
thank you card and putting it in the mail. Right. All you got to do is go on and ask AI, "Hey, here's who I interviewed with, and this was a job. Can you write me a thank you note, a thank you email?" That's all you got to do.
Yep.
It's that thing that will take you from $100,000 company to a multi-million-dollar company. Right. Following all the people, having social graces, having people like you,
Hmm. You
right? I'm
definitely.
more inclined to hire a person if they follow, hey, you know, thanks for the interview. Thanks for the opportunity to interview. Thank you. Thank you to learn more about your company, or thank you. It's that simple, you know. So, those are the steps. And um, I had a lot of mentors growing up, so that would be the next step, right? Seek out mentors, and be proactive. And I tell people all the time, it's like, all right, mentorship should not be like totally, it shouldn't like be transactional. Like, get to know these people,
Hmm.
friend these people, be proactive with becoming friends with them. Telling you, people always want to help get people. People do want to help people, but most people are afraid to ask for the help, including myself. I make the mistake all the time. Like, people want to help me, and I'm just like, I didn't want to bother you. I just got told on Friday, you need to bother me, right? It's all this work out here for you to do. You just got to pick up the phone, dude. Like, what are you doing, right? And so, get that pride out the way and make the call. Sometimes it's scary, right? Nobody wants to be rejected.
Yeah.
But do the thing, right? Like, make the phone call, right? Like, make the phone call, make follow up. Say thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, even if you don't get the job, right? And then I would tell a young person, if you get in the industry, you got a job, you really like what you're doing, stick in that industry and save your money for as long as you can till you're ready to really break out. I
Gotcha.
would say, you need to have a contract that probably can last you at least a year, and then you probably need to have enough savings that can last you at least 2 or 3 years. You got to know your industry, right? The construction industry, it might take you 3 to 6 months to get paid on one invoice. So you better understand that cash flow and how money flows and the ebb and flow of money, and have a way to take care of yourself. People who want to get in real estate development, I tell anybody in real estate development, whatever idea you come up with for a development, whether it be a flip of a house or building an apartment building or a mall, whatever, it's going to take you minimum 5 to 7 years to do it. From the time that you have the concept to the time you open the door on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to take 5 years, right? It's going to take five. Do you have 5 years of money to pay your rent if this is your only thing? Do you have 5 years to pay your kids' daycare? Do you have 5 years to go on vacation? Whatever it is you like to do, if you're going to jump out here and do the thing,
Mm-hmm.
can you handle that for 5 years if you want to be a developer?
Yeah.
You Next, once you finally get into it, the other critical reason why I tell people to have your finances in order because you probably will need to get a line of credit from a bank at some point, and
Okay.
they want to see that you have solid financial footing. They're going to want to see that you manage your money well. I would tell anyone early on start forming a relationship with a bank and with a banker. And so depending on what you're into, um, you might want to go with a more regional bank, you know, where you can touch somebody and they can touch you, they can come to your office and talk to you, as opposed to some of the bigger companies that the bigger banks that are just getting eaten up by consolidation. Sometimes if your account's not big enough or whatever, you might not get that touch that you need. People understanding who you are. Back to relationships. Bankers
Mm-hmm.
lend money to people that they trust and like,
I got that on here 3 times. Relationships. Yep.
right? Right? Like you have to meet the measurables, right? You have to meet the measurables that they ask for as far as cash flow and business and volume of business and things and your credit score and your record and all that. But it's the difference between you needing a $250,000 line of credit and the bank is only offering 100, and your banker goes in and advocates and fights for you to get it and explains your business case
Mm-hmm.
or not. And that's what people don't understand, particularly if you're with a smaller or regional bank. Those folks can go and make the argument if you're like borderline, like, and you want that. You want that because you might need that. You know,
Yep.
you might need that. You might need that extra $150,000 to get you to that next contract.
Yeah.
A lot of these bigger firms now, and to be honest with you, depending on the industry you're in, if you're not um, selling the product or in some sort of service industry, if you're doing contractual work with bigger firms, they have subcontractors go through kind of a clearinghouse. Most of these companies, especially in construction, you got to fill out a whole thing. You got to put your financials up. You got to talk about how long you've been in business. They want to see what kind of insurance you have. Do you have bonding? All the things. And then they do a score and it's run through AI, I'm sure, and
Mm-hmm.
say, yeah, this guy is a worthy risk for us to even give him a shot to bid on a contract.
Mm-hmm.
Not win the contract, to just even bid on the contract. You won't even get the notices to bid if your stuff is not like tight. So people need to understand this. Like it takes a lot of steps, and corporations aren't in the business of losing money
Right.
or taking a risk, just like a bank isn't on a small business if they don't have to. So, you really have to make the case for yourself.
Now that makes sense. I didn't think about that. Probably because I never have to bid on contracts, but it does make sense. Are you even qualified? Like that. That is something that I actually go through now and talk with people about. Like, can qualify a lead, in this case a contractor. You could qualify people faster so that you don't waste time and so that they don't waste time. It's a learning experience on both sides. I can learn if this person is good a person to work with, and if you like them, if you know them, then you can let them know why they're unqualified, and now they can go level up and get more skills or resources or get their paperwork or admin in order. So I think that's great. I think that's great. I got all of these
Another piece,
down.
like
Put these lists
we
together.
got a lot of people that we know, right, want to start a clothing company. They want to start this. They want to have a shop somewhere, right? Like
Hmm.
it's admirable, right? It's cool. Yo, understand leases,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Understand. And if you don't understand, get a lawyer to help you with that, right? So hopefully you've been saving your money. You can actually pay a lawyer who understands lease negotiations to negotiate the best lease that you can get. I've known a ton of people to go out of business and be stuck with a bag of a lease that they still owe.
Speaking of that, thanks for bringing up that story. I want to share that story for anybody that's listening. Understanding your lease and being likable. So I was working with a guy named Cody on the lease for my first juice bar location. So he was nice. He was a real cool guy. We stayed in contact, and he was just a nice guy. Uh, when the pandemic came, and I had the opportunity to go to Hopkins, I was like, I'm gonna follow the money, but I need to close this shop, and I still was in my lease. They allowed me to break my lease at a discount because they understood what was going on with COVID and everything. And they gave me a extended timeline to pay off the amount that they let me pay. So they gave me a discount and an extended time because I kept communication open. I was nice. I was likable enough. And then one day I was in the mall. I was in the market at Whole Food. Cody ran from one end of the market to the other end to meet me just to say what's up, man. Like, yo, and you know what I did? What I did was I helped them get the next person to lease. So when I was moving out, I already found somebody who wanted my space. So now they weren't
Okay.
really losing too much money on
Hmm.
on empty space. So like
Gotcha.
you said, understanding leases, having relationships. Cheo knows what he's talking about. He didn't tell me this, but I guess I was just following the blueprint, and
Telling you, man.
it worked out for me. It worked out for me. So yep, that's
Yeah,
major. Understanding that those things right there was
yeah.
yeah. Well, you just gave us the blueprint. So if you guys are wanting to get into entrepreneurship, specifically development and understanding, you got some tips. You got a place to start. So thank you so much. I'm gonna link to your website just so everybody can see the projects that you've worked on. Possibly if any young people are in college and they want an internship, you can contact them on his website. And if you got a project that you need to get developed, then you can talk to
Yeah, yeah,
THG.
for sure. Well, thank you for having me, Quintel. The last parting shot I'll tell folks is don't sign personal guarantees if you can help it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have did that. Thank you.
So look,
I wouldn't have
look,
did that.
tell so all the viewers look up what a personal guarantee is, and then you make the decision. Because I'm telling you, you better have some passion about what you want to do before you sign a personal guarantee, right? That because it's very important. So that's my last little bit of advice.
I will co-sign that
Um,
one.
thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
I hope we were able to help some folks, and I hope everybody just keeps pushing, man. Just keep pushing for your dream, and it's attainable.
Definitely, definitely. Thanks a lot, Cheo. I appreciate it, man.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.
All right, you too.